Alright, powdered zinc. This is the rather important step here, because this is what's going to be our feedback loop. This is what's going to give us some feedback. Wait, what? Oh. I'm totally doing things properly and only carrying around a certain amount of stuff at a time. Wait, huh? Oh. That would be important. Oops. Must get proper alignment. Must get proper alignment. There we go. Again, make absolutely certain that we get the spacing right. On these power poles. $10, $11, $12. Alright, down we go. Power, 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 and power. Okay, get that recipe on that last one. Is there a reason to limit only one island per switch other than pure greed? Well, it's one island per switch just because that's what they intended. Like, I don't think greed has anything to do with it. There's no point in having multiple islands, like, unless you own multiple copies of the game. Like, do you own multiple copies of the game? Then you can have multiple islands. But considering it's linked to the Switch, yes, I see the slight issue with that. But your Switch is your account. Think of it this way: it's one island per Switch account, and every other account will be on that same Switch because you can have multiple accounts on a Switch. They want everyone who is on an account on a Switch to share the same island rather than have different islands. You can have everyone else who's playing with you on that same island. And it just ends up being like a bit of a coding limitation, I guess. You just simply can't do more than one island per Switch if you have multiple people logged in through the same Switch console. It's not going to, if you want to have them share an island, you can't have them all split on islands at the same time. If you want another island, get another Switch. And if you have a physical copy of the game, you could actually use the same copy of the game across different Switches and have different islands. But why would you? Why would you? Why would you even need more than one island? There's no point. There literally is no point for one person to have more than one island. The only point is if you have multiple people. And even then, why are you even sharing a single system anyway? Because only one person can play at a time, regardless. So again, I reiterate, why have more than one island when only one person can play on a single Switch at a single time? So, logistics. Logistics. Okay, let's get the build of the burners. What happened to my burners? Why are my burners not on my hotbar? Why do I not see my burners on my hotbar? Get there. Go. Be existing. Be existent. I think I need more belt. I think it's that time for more belt. Yep, it's that time for more belt. Where did I leave that crawdad? That crawdad has to be somewhere. It is up here. We'll go get this, and then we'll be back shortly, and we'll have this all wrapped up momentarily. After getting that final dealing with the stuff done. I am, of course, going to feed it with the coal dust. Feed the burners with the coal dust. And then the excess will get voided separately. Do I have... I do. I do have exactly what I need to do that. The boilers to do that. I almost destroyed a chest full of urea. That would not be a good idea. Also, I do hope I even have the red belt. Okay, I have the red belt. Officially. But there was a bit of an issue with having sufficient quantities of advanced small parts. The quantities of the advanced small parts have been a slight issue as well. Again, I think ultimately stemming from the lack of zinc. Maybe. I'm trying to remember. What was it about the advanced small parts that was limiting? There was something limiting. I don't remember. Nylon, maybe? I don't even. What was it? Oh, it was the nexlet. Duh. It was the nexlet. That's why I started voiding all this pure sand to get the nexlet moving. It's because I didn't have enough nexlet to feed the advanced small parts. Duh. That's why I did that. I have remembered why I did a thing. There are reasons that things are bottlenecks, and I sometimes need to remember what those reasons were so that I can actually state them for people. It's like, oh, I did all this work on Nexlet. Why? Why did you do all this work on Nexlet? Well, as it turns out, I needed Nexlet for the advanced small parts. Why do I not have more advanced processing of the Nexlet setup? Because I haven't gotten around to doing it yet. And because it's a lot of sand. And it's a lot of space. And that it's a build. It's a build. Doing more advanced Nexlet processing is probably going to take up the entirety of this space here. Just the entirety of this space here is likely going to be what's more sufficient to do the more advanced processing of the Nexlet. Just all of it. It'll make this look like child's play. It's like this is utter child's play compared to the amount of sand that is actually required when doing the further processing. It is absolute insanity because of the feedback loop that's there in particular. That, like, as the real reason is because it requires so much sand, and then the production of that sand produces so much more tailings that then requires a lot more sand to continue to process. That loop is it is a thing. It is a thing. Oh, and if I brought the other tailings in from everywhere else, if I wasn't voiding tailings anywhere else and I was bringing literally all of it in from everywhere, oh god, that we would need like this. We would need all of this space to do all the processing of the next lit, and we'd back up dramatically on the next lit. We would be completely backed up on that. Oops. This way, please. So, how much of the dust is made out of this? 215? That should be enough for like one boiler, right? Let's just say that's going to be enough for like one boiler. With a glorious tailings pond. Power. Power is awesome. I like power. Yeah, so you need to filter the G2 to go that way. I think that's that. Just get like an initial supply of fuel. And then I think I can turn it on and reposition these. Do I even need to reposition these? No, I don't think so. Not if I do something like this and then reverse the belt here. Sure. Let's do the thing. It is officially on. Let's let all this ore get processed, then we'll swap the recipe over. And remember, I only need 11 of these machines, not 12, so I will, of course, break the last one. And then switch it over to, you. Yay. Now, what did I break? Ah. It would help if I actually assigned the recipe here. That would help dramatically. Having actually assigned this recipe. This is moving. This is moving. I broke something. Right. That needs to be G4. Oops. Okay, and that's doing its thing. This is sending the dust down. G2 feeds back. And yeah, I think we're good. However, I need to do that. That will be absolutely required. Oof. What is the actual values here? That we end up with at this phase? 4.29. Yeah, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. Basically, what's going to happen is that this is going to be, like, somewhat backed up. I guess I can fix it by doing that. And that will help. Yeah. More sufficient quantities of zinc. Hallelujah. We did the thing. Now, all we need is for all the stuff to, like, actually get feedback looped to full efficiency. Oh, boy. Hey, so I think I need more than one. I think I need more than one boiler. Just a thought. I think more than one is required here. There, now we're talking. Now we're talking. I suppose I could have done the math to see exactly how many I needed, but clearly more than one. Now it's moving. The stuff shall flow. The zinc shall flow. All right. For reference, this is incredibly temporary. Like, this is not final at all. I will need to set up at a proper location for zinc with a lot more. Think this, but bigger. Even more. I do think I like the concept of sticking to this hot air processing rather than going all the way up to high grade. Just, well, grease is like the main thing. I will eventually need grease, but at the moment that's lard, and yeah, that's gonna be a bit of a build to set up properly. Just a bit of a build to set up properly. But yeah, I think that I would like to do a 5 yellow belt build, which similar to like this on lead. Lead, this is a 5 yellow belt build. Wait, is this even a thingy? That's 60. Yeah, that should be a yellow. I would like that. Very much so. For far more sufficient quantities of the zinc. Because something tells me... Alright, you. Let me through. Let me through! I want to follow my zinc. I want to follow my zinc down the line. My far more sufficient quantities of the zinc. Well, we're actually going to run way ahead of it, obviously. So it'll be a little bit before we really see the effects of what we just did. Next on the agenda, fish. Oh yeah, you may also notice I have these things now. So another rather important thingy. So I think I got the second one out of this. Just by the way, just, you know, as we've been going along, I don't need to do this anymore. I don't need this to exist anymore. This can die now. Actually, I can paste. I can now do this twice. Yeah, I now can do this out of both of these. To even speed it up more. More! Anyway, as I was saying, before I interrupted myself, so I now have these ultra-fast inserters, and I am using them occasionally. Also, apparently I need more nichrome. Molten nickel, I guess, is on the agenda for some point. Molten nickel with molten, thingamaboppers. Yeah, so this is the extent of my nickel thus far. Yeah, I should go up to molten nickel and get real molten chromium going. Real molten chromium. And do the molten nichrome. That would be more ideal. So fish. By the way, these ultra-fast inserters are just circuit 2s plus stack inserters. That's all they really are. It's stack inserters with additional circuit 2s. And I'm only going to use them when absolutely required. So things like the stuff to feed neuroprocessors. Looks like agar. Glorious, beautiful agar is currently a bottleneck here, so guess I need more agar. But look at the neuroprocessors. Those are no longer the bottleneck. So even though I am short on agar, do I really need to bust that immediately? Not really. Oh yeah, I'm also making a few more cotton gut studs. And I've sort of closed down a lot of these recipes. Ah, boy. Alright, fish. Fish. So, fish is here. It is moving. It is full on this chest. So I now have a chest to use for modules for more fish. Why do I need fish? Well, because fish is going to be required for Corlex, ultimately, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff. So if I really want to get Corlex made, I'm going to want to have sources of fish. Now, fish stage 2 would give us access to fish food. And I was actually playing around with this a little bit when looking at fish, although I don't think I currently have on this file my playing around with it. No. No, I have it on my infinity mode save primarily, but I was looking at and comparing fish without fish food through this recipe to fish with fish food, and ultimately determined that the primary difference between the two is a matter of power. It is actually more a matter of power that is the difference between them. Primarily because fish farms are like 500 kilowatts per fish farm. They're a half a megawatt on their power consumption for these things. So when you're talking a difference in scale between 200 fish farms versus 45, that is an inherent massive difference in scale of power draw. So there is that to consider. But the cost of that power savings by going through fish food is, well, you have to make the fish food. That is the issue, is that you will then have to actually make the fish food for it. And plastic, bones, lard, skin, seaweed biosamples, fish, feedback of fish, Fowlgy, and steam. So, thus we get into why I designed this. I designed this as part of an actual fish food build, because I'm actually producing the seaweed and the moss and all of that in excess to feed fish food. This is actually in excess because it's partially going to be used in the fish food. Now, I had not included yet the production of the plastic into all of this, but it is a very low amount of plastic, like Tholen plastic, like level of stuff, Tholen-based stuff to get the plastic needed for this. And then the Fowlgy is not that much either. So lots of exploring done, and then by the time you realize you've built this really complex thing just to get the few things that you want for the fish food, it's like, do you really want to bother still, or just spend the extra power? And I'm sort of leaning towards the spend the power at the moment. That's what I'm currently leaning towards, is just spend the power and use this recipe. Of course, biomass. Of course, biomass is also a thing to consider here. And then also making use of the wastewater to convert to urea. All that good stuff. All that good, beautiful stuff. And then, of course, there is one other thing that I wanted to discuss, and that is the reason why I even got into my head the thoughts of doing the Mark II Fowlgy to begin with. So, I didn't just decide on a whim to set up my Mark II Fowlgy. By the way, as nice as it is that I have this, I picked this up for good reason. And that is because I had been experimenting with Coke and doing mushroom-based power in the current Pi Alien Life suite. Now, as you can see with this is the amount of coke required to feed the power setup that I currently have out here. So this setup here, right here, this setup. I was looking at the amount of coke from mushrooms, and I was specifically looking at how much power draw that would be. How much power draw that would be. So 135.7 megawatts if using Mark 1 stuff, specifically like the Mark 1 mushrooms. And we see that a lot, the vast majority of that comes from the actual Falgi plantations and the spores. Well, what if we could cut down the amount of Falgi plantations considerably? Considerably. So I'm actually going to copy this, and I'm going to have a look. Because I haven't actually done this yet. We'll paste, and then make sure that I set this to 21. That's 12. That's not... That is the opposite of 21. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to these Mark II plantations. And I am going to change the actual modules as well. Could you erase all those modules? Go to Preferences. Find the Mark II Falgi. And apply those. So, just by doing that, we go from 135.7 megawatts to 92.8. Just by doing that, down to 92.8. And then there's also the concept to use the Mark II Spore Collector as well. But that would actually increase the amount of power overall. Really, that would actually increase. That would actually increase the amount of power. Wow. Okay. Well, I guess I don't have a reason to use the Mark II Spore Collector ever, if it's just going to end up being more power in the end. But yeah, so that's the thing. That's a pretty good savings. I don't know about you, but that looks like a pretty healthy savings of over 40 megawatts. That's a pretty big difference there between those two, just by doing the Mark II modules, as well as use the Mark II building that can have more modules. So, it's an interesting concept. Of course, do note that the mushrooms make raw coal now, and this is doing the raw coal processing into coal, and then doing the red hot coke processing into coke. And this will end up with an excess of coal dust to have to deal with, as well as this stuff called coke oven gas to have to deal with in some way, shape, or form. And then I have to power this. So, the thing about powering this is that ideally this would get powered via solar panels, which, if you've ever dealt with solar panels, 92.8 megawatts in solar panels. Okay, well, solar panels are a max of 60 kilowatts each. So 92.8 megawatts is 92,800 kilowatts. Divide by 60 is 1,547. 1,547 minimum minimum solar panels just to power the machines. And then you need excess to power the accumulators to accumulate enough energy to power the machines overnight. So then you basically have to like increase this even further. So I would probably be comfortable with like 1.8 to 2K. Probably around 2K might be enough. 2,000 solar panels. Just for reference, this is 200 solar panels. Yeah, 2K is safer, and I would need to test it to see if it's enough. But you know, it's this times 10 to feed the 92.8 of this build here. How much larger is it if you're trying to do 135.7? Right? Trying to do 135.7 versus 92.8. That is a massive difference in scale, and is thus the reason why I have set up this Mark II stuff, right?